Kevin, thanks so much for being a guest on the podcast. We really appreciate it. Can you talk about your story with your sort of progression with working in long-term healthcare and sort of like the
Sure.
jobs that you've
Thanks
had
for
and
having
the
me.
sort of the different positions that you've held and how that all kind of came to be?
Certainly. So I actually started my path in senior living when I was 16 years old. I was a high school student. I was looking for an after-school job. They had this great shift that was from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. working in the dining room, and I was scared to death. This is not something I thought I would ever do. When I was picking out jobs, I figured I'd probably work at the mall, but something led me to this position. So I was waiting tables, started building relationships with the residents right away, and realized they have some really great stories, and they were really cool people. So through those relationships, I did that all through the rest of my high school career, kind of stepping up, from a dining room server to a dining room coordinator. And I went away to college, and I thought I was done. So I put in my resignation, and then I realized, no, I can come home on the weekends and I can still work here. So I did that, and all through college, I had many career goals, and long-term care, senior living was not anywhere on the spectrum. I was studying to be a teacher. I was going to be a pharmacist. I was talking about all these other things, and senior living was never something that I thought I would do as a career, but continued working through college and everything. And then it dawned on me, if I get a degree in business, then I can apply that wherever I want to, whether it's going to be music, whether it's going to be senior living, wherever it's going to go. So that's what I did. And upon graduating college, I continued working there, and I loved it. And so I started doing activities with the residents, which was extremely rewarding. From there, I also did maintenance, where I was learning all the ins and outs of the building, turning over apartments. And I'm not very mechanically inclined, so that was interesting. It was a steep learning curve for me, but I really started doing essentially all of the jobs that long-term care offered. And then I set my sights on being an executive director, and that was going to be my thing, where I would manage this community. And my goal was to do it, I thought maybe when I was like 55, and then I was going to do that until I retired. But that was like the pinnacle, and everything I did was going to be working towards that goal. And I went on and I did sales and marketing for another company while I still worked part-time at my first community. And I did some business office stuff at another company as well while I kept my foot in the door at my original community. And then I got a call that the administrator was taking a retirement, and they wanted to know if I was interested in the role. And I was 27 at the time. And I believe from what I heard from a regulator in Maryland, that I was the youngest executive director of a senior living community in the state, and which had its challenges, of course, but that just turned into a beautiful career. And I stayed there for many more years. My grandmother actually moved in, became a resident, and I really loved it. I had an opportunity to spread my wings, and I wanted to continue to grow and learn in the field. So I went to work for a competitor, and worked in some great communities with them. Eventually, in addition to managing communities, I got into a consulting role, which was really interesting because my career goal was to positively impact as many seniors as possible. And that was always my focus. But I also loved studying about leadership. And in my consulting role, I was helping senior living communities with their resident satisfaction surveys and their employee engagement surveys, and helping help them improve those scores and build their employee engagement and make the residents happier. And I stumbled on a formula that worked. And it's, if you take care of your employees, your staff, they in turn are going to provide better care for your residents. And that became my mantra, to really pour myself into developing the staff at every level of the organization, so that they would then in turn provide better care, because there's so many more of them. There was only one of me, so I could only do so much. And I really, really loved that opportunity. From there, I got to join a company in Pennsylvania as their regional director of operations, overseeing communities in a couple different states. And that was their core philosophy as well. That your primary customer is actually your employee, and if you take care of them, they in turn will take care of your residents. So that was a really exciting journey. And then from there, in my current role, I work for the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association. We do regulatory and legislative advocacy for the long-term care sector. My specialty, of course, is in this senior living, the personal care and assisted living, working with those members across the Commonwealth.
Yeah, I think people are very familiar with, or at least have an idea of, when they think of long-term care facilities, they think of the aides and the other, other care positions that are providing like direct patient care,
Right.
working with the residents, making sure that the residents are engaged in activities or getting their meals, and, kind of making sure that they're staying active and those types of things. But, I don't think people associate those facilities with careers that are more in sort of the business office managerial side. Can you talk about some of your daily, like as an executive director, what were some of your daily tasks and initiatives or things that you oversaw in that role?
All right, great question. So I oversaw the budget, the finance. I would do insurance renewals, operational insurance, negotiating health insurance renewals for our employees. Handled all the human resources functions, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Motivating, teaching, training, all of those things. Well, you're essentially the CEO of your business. And I've had communities where we've had 60 people on the team, and I've had communities where we've had over 200 on the team, just depending on the size. And you mentioned direct care, and direct care is a truly noble field, and it's really the backbone of senior living. But there's so many other jobs even just beyond that. And I filled in doing direct care, but that was never actually one of my roles, my primary roles. I was always involved in something else, whether it was in dietary or in the business office or even the recreation, the activities. So there's so many different paths that you can follow. And what I love about it is every day you get to make a difference in people's lives. You're coming into their home, essentially. When they move into a community, that becomes their home, and you're a guest in their home, and you can take care of them. And you can have fun with them, and you can laugh with them and experience life with them. And it's just so rewarding. That's what I love about it. And that's what keeps me motivated.
Yeah, you're in that role. It seems like you're taking care of the people who take care of the residents, right? So, and you talked about that, a happy staff makes for a happy resident. So,
Absolutely.
so you have to have the people that take care of your residents, but you have to have the people that take care of them too. So, and I think there's a lot of different roles within the long-term care industry that, might seem a little outside of the box or not sort of stereotypical of what you would think. Can you talk about the diversity of career opportunities within long-term care?
Certainly. So I was touring a resident and their family one time, and the resident, another resident came up and introduced himself on the tour. And the prospective resident said, "Well, how do you like it here?" And she said, "It's like living on a cruise ship. We just don't leave the dock." And I thought, wow, it truly is a hospitality model. So everything that you would do at a resort, you can do here. So even taking just the business side out of it, if you're interested in cooking or serving, working with food, you have a full-scale restaurant there. Some communities have multiple dining rooms. They have bistros, so they have casual meals. They have buffets. Um, the options are endless. But when you think about working in food service, you often think about, well, there's really late hours. You're working till 2 o'clock or maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, and then having to clean down the kitchen. This is predictable. You know exactly how much food to order, so you can focus your energy on being creative and creating amazing meals, not worrying about how many tops are you going to serve on Friday night or Saturday night, because you already know you have a captive customer base. And that's a challenge too, because if I have restaurants that I love, but if I ate there every day, 3 times a day, I'd eventually get tired of them. So it challenges the food staff to really stay on their toes and really keep raising that bar. So that's that piece. Of course, we have housekeeping, we have maintenance for those people who are mechanically inclined, who like to paint or like to repair things, electrical. We would always, I would try to hire a diverse maintenance team where someone is really proficient in plumbing and someone else is really proficient in electrical. At the end of the day, they need to be a jack of all trades. And there are people who are really mechanically inclined to do those jobs, and they love it because they're interacting with the residents. They're hearing these great stories. It's in a nice climate controlled environment. It's not loud. It's not noisy. It's not, in most cases, the communities I was in, they're not very clinical feeling. They feel like you're on a cruise ship. And when you sit down in the dining room, you feel like you're in a really nice 4 or 5-star restaurant. But even from there, we mentioned a business office. It's someone who is inclined to want to do accounting work. You don't have to be a CPA to do accounting work and payables and receivables. And this is a great opportunity. Senior living provides a great opportunity either to start a career in financial services or to make it a career in itself. Just because you're running a business. It's a business day in and day out. The tricky part of the business is it never closes. So there are no snow days. There are no, we have a hurricane, we're shut down for a week. It doesn't work that way. You stay open. So that provides you with opportunities to be creative. How do we deal with these challenges? How do we promise continuity to our residents, regardless what comes our way? And that in itself is very exciting. Another role that is great, excuse me, for people who are interested in sales and marketing and business development, that's a whole other piece. And I've done this job, my wife has done this job, and it's extremely rewarding when there are families that have a prospective resident that needs some assistance, and they're looking to find the right place to move in, and you get to show them around. You're a tour guide. You get to tell them all the wonderful benefits about living in this community and answer all their questions and be their liaison. And that can be extremely rewarding. I know in the case of my own family, my family was hesitant to move my grandmother when the time came into an assisted living community, despite the fact that I had worked there my entire professional career. And within the first couple of days of her being there, I had each member of my family contact me and say, "I wish we would have done this sooner. This was the best move for your grandmother. She's loving it." And when you hear that it's just so rewarding. Words can't describe it. And to be able to do that for hundreds of residents, that's an amazing feeling too. So that is a way to do business development and sales and marketing, but you're selling a service and a lifestyle. It's like selling real estate in a lot of ways too. So that's a great position for someone who's inclined in that direction.
It's a lot. A lot goes into it. A lot of behind the scenes. A lot goes into it.
There's a lot of behind the scenes.
There's probably more non-clinical staff at a facility than clinical staff, almost, perhaps. Or about equal.
If you balance it out, I'd say it's probably about equal. Yeah.
Which is really, you really do. A lot of people just focus in on that. The nurse and the nursing assistant and maybe the resident, recreational therapist or something like that. When they think about that, but there's so many other people that go into it to make the whole thing work, to make the ship run.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you think about it in terms of a cruise ship or a hotel, people who are interested in hospitality management might think, well, I'll work in a hotel. Well, here's a completely other option that you probably haven't thought about, but is really similar. Some of these senior living communities have pools. Most of them have fitness centers. I mean, it is like an extended stay hotel for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think too, I think that's a common misconception, right? Is that people have an idea of what these facilities are like, and then they finally sort of the resident moves in and sort of has that experience, and they realize, oh, this is not just a place where I sort of go to ride out the end of my days. It's like it's like a cruise ship. It's like a cruise ship that's not on the sea, and that's kind of, I think, is that one of the more difficult parts, I think, of like when you were working in sales and you were working in that part, and the marketing part, was that sort of hard to convince potential residents that no, it's not exactly what you think it is. It's way more than just a place to go to sort of see out the end of the days. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's difficult on the phone, but once they come to the community and they see the life, it's very easy to recognize. There's a tremendous amount of freedom in making this move. And I know a lot of people, the first gut instinct is, well, I don't want to leave my house. I don't want to move into this place with these older people, and we hear that all the time.
Yeah.
But what you don't realize is, as people start experiencing either cognitive or some physical limitations, not a whole lot of houses have a master bathroom on the first floor. So there's stairs involved. You don't have to be at the end of things to appreciate not ever having to go up a flight of stairs again, right?
Yeah.
The idea of it's great, you have a house with a kitchen, but now you have to go grocery shopping. I personally don't care for grocery shopping. This guarantees you don't ever have to go grocery shopping if you don't want to. Of course, if you want to, you certainly can. But the idea of having your meals prepared, having your lawn automatically cut, not having to worry when it snows who's going to shovel your driveway, gives you an immense amount of freedom to do the things that you actually enjoy doing. And once people see that, and they see people who are unencumbered by the home ownership and all that comes along with that, they can just be in a nice community of their peers. It's a beautiful thing. And like I said, once they get in the door, usually they're able to see it.
Have you encountered anything like during the hiring process where a potential employee had some kind of misconception?
I'm sorry.
That's all right. No worries. Had some kind of like misconception or operating with like sort of some myths about what a career in long-term care is like?
I think a lot of people, when they apply for a job, they have misconceptions, and they think that they're not going to see they're surprised when they see the energy of the residents and the folks, and the idea of really being able to make that difference, having that purposeful work, being able to see that in person. You can watch people's eyes light up sometimes when you're on the interview and taking them on a little tour, and that's an amazing thing as well. They weren't quite sure what to expect. And then they come in and they say, wow, this is really nice. It's not just a bunch of long halls. This is beautiful. And what a nice environment for them to work in, to bring their skills in to help other people.
What do you look for? Like, what makes a good employee then?
That's a great question. And that's really difficult. What I can tell you is it's always been my philosophy to hire the right personality because we can teach them the skills. We can teach them how to set a table. We can teach them how to serve. We can teach them how to assist the resident, with maybe getting dressed, or, how to help them get into a vehicle. We can teach all of that, but it's that innate personality, the desire to want to help people, that really makes someone a cultural fit. And culture is everything, because, like I said, this is, it's a 24/7 operation. This is the resident's home, and that the culture is everything. We can teach the rest, but you can't teach personality.
Yeah, I think even using your story as a model there, I mean, you can really start at the bottom, as a host, and then work your way all the way up to, executive director. And in part because, a lot of these facilities do tuition reimbursement. So if they, when you say you can train the people to do the job, you actually can train them, and you can send them back to school to get an LPN, to get trained as a certified nursing assistant too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing that was really nice for me, it was a gift for me, starting when I did in the roles that I did, was when I became an executive director, when I became a regional operations director, I had done all of those jobs. I know what they entailed. So I knew what I was asking of people, and I knew where the challenges would be. So I could help them ahead of time, say, like, I know this might be difficult, so try this way. And, I think that's why we were always able to have such successful teams.
Can you talk a little bit more, in detail about when you say you're looking for that typical personality, or that sort of set the bar personality, where it's somebody who has a service mindset? How does that, like, if I'm a student sitting here, how do I know if I have the kind of personality that you're looking for? Like, what are some of the ways that it manifests itself?
Empathy. Empathy is number one. I think caring about people, and like actually genuinely caring about them. I think that's one. I think emotional intelligence, being self-aware, how you come across, being able to handle criticism, and be in the mindset of always learning. These residents, they've lived through things that we can't even imagine. And being in that constant learning environment, when you're taking care of a veteran, when you come to work, if you think you're having a bad day, think of some of the days that they've experienced, and learn from those. So that empathy is critical. I mean, it's just so necessary. This isn't a task-based job. It's emotionally taxing. Sometimes it can be physically taxing as well. It really works with the whole person. You bring your whole self to work.
Awesome. Do we want to talk about entry-level jobs? I mean, I think we probably have people, students listening to this thinking, okay, I mean, I'd like to give this a shot, or I feel like I have that type of personality. Maybe I could sort of replicate what you've done, Kevin, and try to, build a career within this industry. What are some of those entry-level jobs that our students potentially could find themselves in when they want to enter the workforce here after graduation?
Yeah. So, starting like I did in the dining room is a fantastic opportunity, because it taught me people skills. I was so shy. I wouldn't talk to people, and it taught me how to interact with people. And I knew I wasn't going to wait on tables in the dining room my whole life. That's not where my career was where I wanted my career to go. But it taught me. It taught me, just how to work with the people. And then I got to see what was open in front of that. Of course, there's direct care jobs that are in abundance right now. There's a huge need for people just to go in and really help work directly with the residents. I like the idea of starting there. Perhaps there's an internship. People are getting creative with attracting people to the field because there are so many misconceptions. That's another great opportunity. But the idea of having a job where you can work after school and on weekends is fantastic. That way they can continue going to school for whatever it is that they want to pursue. So it's for people who want a career in senior living, it's great. For people who don't want a career in senior living or don't think they do, it's great as well. There's so many opportunities.
And I think, a lot of places do volunteering as well. Can you talk about that?
Oh, you know what? That's a great idea. I forgot about that. Yeah, volunteering is fantastic. If you have a special talent, whether it's music or art, volunteering to go in for an hour or two intermittently, that is a fantastic way to get to know the residents. It's so much fun. It's directly rewarding. And if you don't have those kinds of talents, going in and playing games. One of my favorite things to do was a men's club where it was just a bunch of guys sitting together and we'd play poker and we would just talk about things. And, there are days where I would just be like, I'd come home from work and someone would say, well, what'd you do at work today? I'm like, I had the best poker game today. I learned so much about World War II and, all of these things. Who gets paid to do that, So what a great opportunity. And so starting off with volunteering like that is a prime example. I'm really glad you brought that up. There's always opportunities for that.
Yeah, I remember visiting my great grandfather and we'd play cards and stuff like that. That was always fun to go in and then you sort of talk to some of the other residents and kind of sit around the table and you would hear stories about things that you couldn't even picture in your own mind, like some of the places they'd been and experiences they've had. And I remember talking to people about living through the Great Depression and sort of what that experience was like and how they actually, some of them really enjoyed it and loved it. They actually kind of yearned for those times again. Things were a little simpler. It was kind of weird to think that during the Great Depression, you actually had a great time. I think it's kind of maybe similar to what some people are experiencing now with, with what we're dealing with currently is, a lot of the more family time together and those types of things. But yeah, it was always great to sort of hear the stories. I want to hear the stories. I want to hear about experiences. I've never been there. So to hear from people who had actually been to these places and seen these things and done these things, it was sort of fun to sort of experience that through a conversation. Yeah, for sure. So sort of wrapping this up, if we have students now that obviously are, in that, 9, 10, 11, 12 grade levels that are thinking about their careers, thinking about, making a choice, which direction to go, sort of what area or industry they want to focus on. What are some things that you would tell them or that you would like them to know about long-term care that maybe you wish somebody would have told you when you were 16, 17 years old?
I think for me, I didn't realize how important purposeful work is to your overall happiness. And we constantly hear people talk about work-life balance, and that's not 8 hours of work and 8 hours at home. There's an integration to it. And I'm sure you all are aware of that. But when you can actually take your skills and your passions and align them to help other people, it is so rewarding. The sky's the limit as far as opportunities go. There are opportunities at every step. Anything that you want to accomplish, I believe you can do. Even we missed a couple of things that I failed to mention, but some of our folks on our PHCA team are really involved in policy and legislation. People who are interested in politics. The idea that the baby boomer generation is coming of age, and we talk about the silver tsunami, especially here in Pennsylvania, there's a tremendous amount of work that we need to do to prepare ourselves for the future, for the generations as they get older. Opportunities like that. Just, I would say, if you have a passion and you want to make a difference, look into senior living to see where you could apply those, where you can plug them in, because I guarantee you will find a place. I have a good friend who's a financial analyst, and her role is data and analyzing for new communities and all of that. So the sky's the limit. It really is.
Awesome. Ian, anything you want to add to wrap up?
I was just going to say, are there any good resources you might direct students to kind of, who are interested in learning more, or just to kind of find out a little bit more about the industry as a whole?
Sure. I think, the associations are a great resource. Pennsylvania Healthcare Association. I would actually encourage, if anybody wants to talk about careers in senior living or has questions, I would ask you to send them my way. I would love to talk to students. I think visiting one of your local communities, visitation's been a little difficult recently, but that's been opening up more and more. So I think that there's plenty of opportunities for that, just to go in and experience it. Just say, hey, I want to take a tour. I want to see how I fit in. The technologies that you can experience, that's another area, to improve living situations for older adults, technology as well. So didn't want to leave that part out. But I would say just go to a community, talk to people who are in the field, and reach out to your associations like PHCA. And we can even get you in contact with providers who would be more than happy to take students on a tour, and introduce them to what their community has to offer.
So if you're interested in finding out about those opportunities or taking advantage of those resources, find the link in the description below the video, and you should be able to sort of look around and see what's available. Kevin, we really appreciate you coming in and doing the podcast with us. A lot of great information. I really liked your message there at the end about, sort of finding something you're passionate about and having, meaningful work, feeling like what you're doing is making some kind of difference within a community is something that I think is valuable and does provide overall, better job satisfaction for people. So I know it's something that Ian and I and our team here at the Innovative Programs, when we're talking with students, that's part of the discussion is, how am I making a difference, or what impact am I having, or, does this job sort of satisfy something within me that I feel a need to do and a calling to do. So we really appreciate that message. And I think it's something that will connect with students. So we really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming in, and we'll see everybody on the next episode. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem.